Welcome to the Modern Enlightenment podcast. Here are your hosts, Tom and Will Knecht.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much for joining us. I am Tom.
And I
This
am
is
Will.
my brother. Yeah. And
How's it going?
we are so glad that y'all made it to the show today. This is the Modern Enlightenment, and we are just so excited to share some great news with y'all, some wonderful ideas, and have a conversation, just really break open all the barriers and come together as people to talk about the different kind of crazy things going on in the world.
Yes. And may I just say, bro, it's just dawned on me that you have some amazing beard action going. So just want to say No Shave November is looking good on you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It didn't take very long to grow either. I don't know what happened. I must have hit puberty. So we're really excited to be here, and we hope that y'all get a lot out of this program. This program is designed to talk about some of the hypocrisy that we might be experiencing in the world today, some of the socio-political and environmental things that are going on, and to give you provoking, life-changing philosophies that can maybe revolutionize the way that we interact with one another, perhaps even shatter the framework of our society and rebuild it into something even better than it is right now. There's a lot of blogs and podcasts out there, and I think it's really important that we differentiate ourselves by saying we're not really here to provide political spin. We're not really here to do that. Although we might talk about politics, I think it's an important thing to discuss those types of issues. We're not here to really be a meditation or how-to program or anything of that nature. What we really are is we are encouraging a conversation which is desperately needed between all of the people of our society, so that the world can benefit and identify a new pathway forward that can lead to a more peaceful and fulfilling adventure for all of us.
Exactly.
Will, you got anything to add there?
No, we're all seekers, I think it's fair to say, if you're listening now, and certainly what's inspired us to start this project is we're all seekers, and we are driven to find truth in all things, and to leverage our abilities to reason and think logically and rationally when faced with these problems, these dilemmas, conundrums, whatever you want to call them, that we are facing in our day-to-day lives and in existence as we know it.
Yeah, and just like the original Enlightenment was, they're all dead guys now, but really brilliant people who were questioning the legitimacy of the government at the time. We're questioning, is our society working the way that it should? And is there a better path that we can seek moving forward? I think that that's what makes this the modern Enlightenment. To say, should we just accept it? Should we just accept this the way it is? I think we would all agree that there are rooms for growth and room for change. And so hopefully with your help.
And not only that, but I think there are some things that are in place that are great just the way they are.
Yeah. And we should highlight those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And definitely celebrate them. And I think that it's important for us to do that too. Just because that's what makes this society fantastic. And while there's those excellent things, the purpose is for us to just bring people together here and move forward with some confidence, trying to make it just a little bit better. So how are we going to do that? Well, each of these programs, we're hoping to keep about 30 minutes so you can enjoy it on your ride into work, or perhaps your ride home, whenever you feel the most need to become a little bit more enlightened. And we want to have thought-provoking discussion. We'll bring in members of the community at times. We'll ask people that we meet in the street. I'm a teacher. I might involve some of the students that I work with. We also hope to bring forth some entertainment commentary, some good news. Oftentimes we are only inundated with the bad news. So, hey, how about some good news? And, general gratitude, some appreciation as we all journey through this wild world together. So let's start with introducing ourselves. Will, why don't you go first?
Sure, right on. I'm Will, and I was born exactly 2.5 years before this guy over here, and we grew up together with mostly in a house with a single mom in it, solo, and thus we grew up pretty close, but nevertheless in a family of very cerebral, thinking, know-it-all type people, and I guess it somehow rubbed off onto us. But I am 41. Um, Worked in Houston oil and gas as an engineer for a long time, and recently relocated out to Nashville, Tennessee, where I am now with my wife and two daughters who are 5.5, and almost 4, and love music, reading, um, and grilling a good cup of tea,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, just a regular old dad living a suburban life, I guess you could say. How about you, bro?
Yeah, I'm the younger brother, although a lot of people think I'm the older one. Um, and growing up was amazing. I think that we were so blessed to grow up in the household that we had, even though our mom suffered. She didn't have a whole lot of money. We never really had all the things growing up. We still had a very privileged life, to some extent, in that we had great education. And I think that that was one of the best things that we ever had growing up. We've always had a lot of support, and I think it's that support that we had that makes us want to give back to others around us. I also, I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for the last 12 years, and I've worked with a lot of kids. I've worked in performing arts. I've also worked in social studies, and being able to work with students and help show them the way that the world works, I think has been extremely fulfilling. And it's also provided me with a lot of the inspiration to come forth and share this message through this media with all of you. Um, I have a wife as well. I also have two lovely daughters, just like my brother here. I think we are blessed with that. My daughter just turned 7 the other day. Woot. I feel so successful. I kept
Yeah.
one alive that long. Yes. And the other one is 4 going on 21. So we have that to play with and look forward to. And, as crazy and rambunctious as life can be, um, it is such a wonderful blessing to be able to come home to a family that shares in your passions and community and want to be a part of each other's lives and do things to help each other. So, I just got to say, I am a lucky, lucky guy.
Heck yeah. I'm going a little off script here, but while we're on the topic of introductions, who maybe, if you had to name your 3 top most inspirational figures in your life, great thinkers, or whatever, that have that maybe you'll have sort of lurking in the back of your brain as we have these discussions, who might some of those influencing thinkers be?
Well, that's a really good question, Will. So one of the first ones that comes to mind was Mr. Buckley. Mr.
Ah,
Buckley, the theology
yeah.
teacher slash choir director that we had growing up, who taught me that some things in life are not good or bad; they just are.
Yep.
A very Buddhist philosophy,
Yeah.
and one that I think is so true and helps me to not find reasons to become overly excited or overly critical of events in life, but instead to be able to just like, you know what, it's just the way it is right now. I just need to kind of keep on plowing ahead. Then the number 2 would probably be our mom, whom has a tremendous work ethic, who never really laid down whenever the going got tough. She definitely knew how to get going. And mom is always has been and always will be a huge inspiration for me. And the third one, um, as crazy as it might sound, I think the third one is probably my wife. And She is a tremendous person who has done some of the most amazing stuff that I could ever imagine. And she's gone through, you name it, and she's gone through it. And for her to be able to still contribute to the household and to do the things that she does, to support her mother, and to do the things that she does to support our kids and teach and all of the other things, it's, I can't possibly think of anyone who's more inspirational than she is in my life. So that's a great question, Will. And what about you, my friend?
Right on, man. Well, for me, my first one is going to be the Nobel Prize winning physicist from 1965, the incomparable Richard Feynman. He is without a doubt one of my biggest influences, and just read all his books, and the guy was just the true definition of Renaissance man. And he had a quote that I live by. We have it on a huge frame up on the wall. It says, "Nobody ever figures out what life is all about, and it doesn't matter. Explore the world. Nearly everything is really interesting if you go into it deeply enough." And that's just something that I keep in my heart. And when you have that inquisitive nature about yourself, and we get to walk around with these, with a cell phone every day. Look, if you want to know something, you can literally look it up, assuming that it's not a political nature topic. You'll get the right answer usually.
You'll get an answer for sure.
But it's great to be inquisitive, and it's wonderful that we can literally learn as fast as we want to. Number two would be a fellow who turned me on to Richard Feynman when I was a young chap, and that's our granddaddy, granddaddy Knecht, our dad's dad. What a incredible fella. Just incredibly brilliant, common sense for days, didn't beat around the bush, didn't take shit from nobody, but loved his family, worked very hard, was patient and humble, and also encouraged all of us to be that way. And thirdly, when I think of all of the authors I've read over the years, there's one that I find to be just it's hard to pick one, but I'm a huge Robert Wright fan. I think his books are staggering works of brilliance, and I just can't. I don't hesitate to read the next one when it comes out. So Robert Wright is a great thinker, but there's a lot of great thinkers out there that inspire me, that I'm sure I will allude to all of them in bits and pieces here and there throughout this journey of the modern Enlightenment.
I'm looking forward to it too. And there's so many great ones like you were mentioning. I mean, like Stephen Hawking, that dude is wicked smart. And just all of the things that he brought forth in terms of his mathematical and analytical skills. I'm a big fan of Einstein. Father Loninger was an amazing guy, great inspiration, as straightforward a character he was. And the old school people throughout history, like, man, I just finished talking to my students about, John Locke and Rousseau and Montesquieu and those original Enlightenment thinkers. To think that only about 5% of the population could actually read back then. And these people were not only reading, but they were reading everything. And they were writing because of what they read. And they chose to share that information with the world. Like, that is a gift. It is a gift that is underappreciated to some extent.
Let me interrupt for a minute, if I may. I'm going to, I think I hear one of my kids fussing, and I think the wife's in the shower. So give me a minute and I'll be right back. I'm going to pause and we'll be right back.
All right.
And we're back.
Hope you enjoyed that commercial break. We, Will, you were talking about Richard Feynman, and I just got to say, in each of our presentations, I think it's really important for us to have a thought of the day. And the quote that you just mentioned is an amazing one. I think if I remember correctly, it was, nobody ever figures out what life is all about, and it doesn't matter. Explore the world. Yep. Nearly everything is really interesting if you go into it deep enough. And that concept for me is really, really profound too, because if you don't know about something, how can you possibly make an effective decision? If you don't know like what other solutions might be out there, how do you know you're making the right one? And so much of what we do in our world has to be done based on split-second decisions. When we're going out in public and something goes on around us, if I don't know how to respond, what do I do? If I'm going into the voting booth and I don't know enough about who's on the ballot, how am I going to know what to do?
Well, the thing that's scary about being not only uninformed, but dare I say misinformed, and just not knowing any better, any way you cut the pie, is you put yourself at a risk for being taken advantage of by people who do know better.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, when they say knowledge is power, well, it literally is.
The only way that you're ever going to get to a better station in life is through the acquisition of knowledge. That is a fundamental truth. And I hope that people who hear this program like recognize the value in that sort of a realization. If we can just learn more, we will not be controlled by the world around us, but instead we have the power to influence our own governance, our own control over ourselves, instead of just becoming another sheep following the rest of the herd.
You got it.
Man.
And I think the thing that is the challenge is the acquisition of knowledge and good information is a bit of a time-consuming process. You either are sitting down and reading the research, reading books written by people who have read the research, or you are listening to podcasts while you're driving, multitasking. Great way to get it done. Thanks for checking us out. But there are a lot of ways to acquire the information, but they all involve having to take few mediums enable you to multitask while you're learning, and half the time you're too busy multitasking to really soak in and absorb what it is you might be listening to if you're doing an audio book while you're trying to work out or whatever. You're getting some of it, but not all of it. And so unless you're like a paid academic and your job is to do this professionally, the average Joe out there just doesn't have the time or the wherewithal to absorb the depth and breadth of information that's out in the world that would actually make certain life decisions a little more clear cut.
Absolutely. And I think we should definitely spend some time in this program talking about that and like how is it best to gain that acquisition of knowledge. As I tell my students, I say, don't trust me. I don't want you to trust me. I want you to go and learn for yourself. I want you to hear what I have to say and then have a question pop into your head and then act on that question and go and do a little bit of self-guidance and some self-research and fulfill it for your own validity, for your own justification. Because I don't want it to be good enough for that it comes from me. I want it to be something that you yourself find in yourself.
Absolutely. And not to get into the specifics behind good thinking, but the way to, shall we say, because you can get information from anywhere, but we have to know that it's good information. And so I have always been a fan of Bayesian reasoning, which very simply is, um, you know, as more information becomes available, the correct course of action is updating your previously held beliefs or your previously held understanding with respect to this new information. You might say, well, that changes everything, you know?
Yeah.
And we all have to be willing and humble enough to say, I was wrong.
Mhm.
I was wrong. And I think, going back to when we sort of we're doing introductions, with our family being full of so many know-it-alls, um, we only had two options. One was to be the better know-it-all, or two, get really good at saying, "Oh, you
Oh,
got
my
me.
bad.
I was wrong."
Yeah,
And
true
and
story.
if you can kind of tuck your tail when you got it wrong and learn something new and go, okay, new perspective. This changes the way I'm going to look at things.
Let me use
Boom,
this.
life will improve.
Yep. It
Then
becomes a tool.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So yeah, great thought of the day. But we'll talk more about all that sort of stuff. Maybe we'll talk about times when we've been horribly, utterly wrong,
Oh, yes.
and what we were wrong about, and how we came to the realization we were wrong, and so forth, for another episode. Because I think that the topic of thinking, learning, updating your viewpoints, it's an iterative process, and you keep you keep going at it, you keep seeking, you keep
It's a
learning new
daily,
things, and
it's a
then you
daily routine.
change your thought on stuff, and you get new ideas about things, and that process actually becomes very exciting and
Yeah.
fulfilling, that after a while you just become hooked. You're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what?
It's almost as though you get addicted to your brain learning the new stuff and then
Yeah,
actually applying it to the
yes.
world that you live in. You're like, oh wow, cool.
Although
Let me do that
I
thing.
shall say that, whilst learning is a delight and a joy, um, we have to, keep in mind a few fundamentals. For example, Occam's razor, usually the
Mhm.
easiest solution is probably the right one. The more elaborate and things you're pulling in to try to like prove that
Solve a problem.
to solve a problem, you're probably, not
Making it
quite,
worse.
yeah, making it worse. Now,
Probably
listen,
making it worse.
I'm a fan of a juicy conspiracy theory, but you can't go believing what every Tom, Dick, and Harry out on the internet are saying, about this, that, or the other, whether it be, say, the geometric shape of our planet, um, you know, and so forth. Um, it's funny because there's still flat earthers, despite the fact that there was literally an episode where a flat earther did a science experiment to determine if indeed light, it's like, if the earth is flat, then the beam of light should hit at this point, and then it ended up not, and he was like, oh, that's
Oh, well.
interesting. Well, great, that's good. That's how people, that's how everything, I think, you know,
you know,
these are the ways we learn. This is the way that it's been going on for hundreds of years. Sometimes you get duped into thinking
something's right and it's not
something's
right.
right, and it is not.
And if you have enough powerful people telling you it's right, you might even believe them. And that's a dangerous thing too.
Very.
But hey, what? Guess what, Will? There is good news. Which brings
What's the
us
good
into our
news?
next segment of the show called Good News.
Oh, I love good news.
Hey, so good news, bro. The International Space Station is okay. The Russians, they were trying to test out a new missile, and so they shot one up into space and blew up one of their own satellites, and it created a giant debris of dust. in outer space is going to stay there for several decades, which really sucks. But fortunately, none of the astronauts or cosmonauts on the ISS were damaged. They had to do an emergency maneuver. They had to move the ISS out of the way of this dust cloud to keep it from, catastrophic failure. But all in all, everything ended up to be okay. And so I am grateful for that.
That is good news. And speaking of the ISS, I had a really cool experience working on a subsea project where we actually tested some equipment at the neutral buoyancy laboratory down there, where they have the mock-up of the ISS down in the tank, and the astronauts get down there where they practice these missions there. And we were working in a huge tank next door with the ROV testing some equipment. So it was super cool. So anyways, it was great. Got to bump daps with an actual astronaut.
Pretty sweet, man.
Yeah. Am I supposed to do some good news right now?
Yeah. Do you have any good news, bro?
I do have some good news, and I should have had it queued up, but while I'm finding my good news, why don't you do another one?
Sure. All right. Well, how about this one? Apparently, there was a big concern about the amount of monarch butterflies that were around in California. So, fortunately, there's good news. Substantially more monarch butterflies have arrived in California, bringing hope for the species. This past October, 1,300 monarchs were counted at the Pacific Grove wintering site, and last year, at the same time, there were 0, which is crazy.
Holy cow.
The Prismo State Beach Monarch Butterfly Grove counted 8,000 monarchs this year. Last year, there were less than 300. So that is a pretty substantial change in monarchs. And granted, I'm a big fan of monarchs. They're beautiful. You see them fly around. The girls love them. They try to catch them in the backyard whenever we get lucky enough to see them here in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
But
sure.
that's pretty wild. You have to wonder, is it because of the climate? Is it because of additional rains that they had in the tropics this past year? A lot of contributing factors to why insects, which butterflies are, have different population booms and things of that nature. So good news nonetheless. Good news.
That is really cool. And speaking of monarch butterflies, I can remember right around the time when you were born, when we lived in Kansas, there was a migratory route that came where there was just, clouds of these butterflies, these monarchs coming right basically over the backyard. And I can just remember being a little kid just blown away by the experience. So where's I had my good news, and I am not even finding where my good news is. Why don't you go again?
Hey, it's cool. Yeah, no problem. Dude, I got tons of good news.
I'm glad you're better prepared than I am.
So this is pretty crazy. Everyone knows that HIV is serious business, and we've been trying to figure out all sorts of cures. Well, a woman in Argentina has been characterized by researchers as a hope patient after her own immune system cured her HIV.
What?
It's the second time that this has ever been documented, and it's an amazing circumstance. The patient became the second documented individual whose immune system combated against this deadly disease in a fashion achieving sterilizing cure without any type of stem cell transplantation, no marrow change, no nothing. She had no treatment at all. Her body fought off HIV. Talk about amazing. So they're really looking forward to this lady. They're doing plasma research, and they're trying to see what kind of other things she has going on in her blood to help her immune system have combated HIV. They're hoping that they can create some type of medicine to be a huge life-changing cure for the entire world. Talk about a fantastic circumstance. That is great news.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I wonder if we got to find out what was she eating? Does she have any kind of like
Well,
special
interestingly
diet,
enough, too,
vitamins?
she became pregnant also while she had HIV, and she didn't take any medicine. Her child didn't have anything going on. There was nothing in the placenta. There was nothing in the woman's body. I don't know if perhaps some that had to do with the pregnancy adjusted or infected her hormones or what. This why I'm not a doctor. All I'm saying is wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so here's some good news, and this is up in Austin, Texas, and after being in the service industry, waiting tables and bartending for years, back in working through college and whatnot, the when you're relying on those tips to keep the lights on, well, obviously with the lockdowns and everything, it's been hurting these service industry workers. But there is a restaurant in Austin, Texas. It's North Austin Sushi Restaurants. It's a sushi restaurant.
I love sushi.
There are customers that are coming in and leaving way above average tips for these servers, to help keep them going. One such customer left $1,000 tip on a $124 check. So these kind of tips have been happening pretty frequently at this particular restaurant. So I guess it just goes to show, great restaurant, great service, and the regulars there really care about those employees. So
That is life changing.
I'm happy to, I can remember when, this was all going down back when we were still there in Houston. And we were, I just remember, looking at the wife and saying, we got to order takeout from these places and help them stay afloat and really keep these restaurants going. And I think fortunately a lot of the other people in our area felt the same way, because there were lines to get to-go food. I mean, everyone realized, like, well, first of all, everyone wanted an excuse to get out of the house a little bit. But at the same time, like, people realize now more than ever, when we gotta, help these restaurants stay
For sure. For
afloat.
sure. So y'all please go and tip your bartenders, tip your servers. If you're out and about and you're enjoying the community and the people who are working out there, like, our restaurants are, they are just as valuable frontline workers as anybody else, in my opinion. They help keep this place running. They help share the good news whenever people are having bad days. And so, yeah, definitely share your appreciation, show your love in that way. I think that's a fantastic piece of news. Let's do one more here. I thought that this was kind of wild and crazy. Prison inmates learned how to quilt.
Okay.
And so now they make amazing badass quilts and they give them to foster children.
Wow.
Which is, the quote from an inmate said, knowing firsthand what it feels like to be forgotten by society, these inmates were practicing making quilts as a strive to create a personalized quilt for each of these foster kids, to let them know that someone actually cares for them, that they aren't throwaways. And I think that that's like a really interesting way of, like, taking a personal amount of suffering and choosing to turn it into a positive action to give back and inspire hope in another individual. If that's not what humanity is about, I don't know what is.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
Good for you guys, and choosing to do something proactive with your time. I mean, it sucks being stuck in prison, no doubt. I think we would all agree with that.
Yeah.
But you could sit there and complain or blame somebody else or blame yourself even. But instead, these people have learned to accept it and put their skills to good use doing something productive.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys.
Which the one of the most fulfilling things in life is doing something for somebody else.
Yeah.
When you actually um, do this, even no matter how small it is, um, that is just an incredible feeling. And there, happiness, and we'll have an episode just on happiness, but it's a never-ending journey. And it's ongoing. You have to find it in every moment. So the best thing is to get little doses of the things that give your brain that feeling of satisfaction. And one of the hugest sources of that is just generosity. Doing something for somebody else, being helpful. Um, so
Yeah, it's funny
I
because
think does that.
I
Oh, go ahead.
well, I saw statistics about that very idea. It said that people in the United States who do things towards giving some sort of a good deed towards other people were twice as likely to be satisfied about their own life. They were
Yes,
92% happier. They were 77% more relaxed. They were 71% healthier just by doing positive things to other
you
people.
got it.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yep, it's amazing. All of these, there are a few important principles in my life, certainly, and I know we have plans to touch on all these. But like you said, I think you kind of alluded to one being gratitude, and to be to have the satisfaction with your own life. Um, that these people have who are giving to others. um, you don't have to have more than what you need to give to somebody else. And in fact, um, you know you don't even have to have a lot, to be grateful for what you have. So when you have this gratitude, when you're grateful for what you do have, and on top of that, give what you can to other people. You just imagine what would happen if every person um, in life actually had this conviction inside of them when they went out to live their lives. And I think it's amazing because you and I, having lived in some of the most commuter driven
Oh man.
cities, you got people who might be the nicest people in the world, but it's amazing how as soon as they get in that car, it's like a switch flips and it's every man for himself on
Mhm.
those roads. And I'm telling you, some of the nicest people turn into, like, whoa,
Mhm.
Jekyll and Hyde. You get in the car. But where am I going with this? I had this digression because I think we all, at some point, I think for the most part, everyone looks at themselves in the mirror and goes, "Well, I think I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I really think I'm a good person." And and then
And
if
if you
you,
don't, maybe you should. If you
well,
don't have that
true,
thought, maybe you should.
true, and if you do all the time, just maybe make sure that maybe there are ways to be even better, shall we say.
I think that's a very diplomatic way of saying it, bro. Which brings us to our closing action. So each day or each episode, we want to encourage you to do something to help yourself feel that sense of gratitude, that sense of satisfaction, just as Will said. And so today's call to action is I'm going to encourage you to write an old fashioned letter to someone who you haven't talked to in a while.
Ooh,
Maybe it's a dear friend of yours, maybe a college roommate, or perhaps maybe your grandma or grandpa. I'm not talking about like a quick text like, oh, hey, what's up, honey? You're so cute. I miss you. No, I'm talking about like actual take out some paper, write a thoughtful letter, talk about how you've been, ask questions about how that person's been. Try to stroke up a little pen paling. I know personally, whenever I see a handwritten note come in the mail to me, I get a little bit more excited because I know it's not a piece of junk mail like everything else that I always get in the mail.
Yeah.
And that just makes my life a little bit brighter receiving that piece of parcel. So that's our call to action for this week.
Heck
Will,
yeah.
who do you think you might write a letter to?
Well, I think, I'm going to have to go Granny and Grandpa. I hope
Beautiful,
I didn't
beautiful. I
steal
love it.
yours. What if we both did Granny and Grandpa
I
and they
think
both got letters
they
from us?
both love it. No
Holy
doubt.
cow, they'd
I
be
could
like,
hear Granny right now.
what?
God bless Granny and Grandpa. They're amazing folks.
How old
I
are they
love
now?
them so much.
90s?
The other person
5,
that
right?
came to I'm sorry, say again, Will?
I was saying, how old are Granny and Grandpa now? I think they've got to be mid 90s, late 90s.
They're old. I think Grandpa was born in 30 some odd. So yeah, he's
I
he's
mean,
he's getting close.
whew,
Close to the century mark
yeah,
and
unbelievable.
still kicking.
Still kicking
If
strong.
I don't write a letter to Granny and Grandpa, I think I would send a letter to my buddy Carlos. It's been a long time, and
Ooh,
I'd love to hear from
Carlos.
Carlos.
Yeah, yeah. Is he still over there in Spain?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He's had a couple of children.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
he is very fortunate to have a blessed family, just as we are.
Yeah.
And but I miss the guy, and I'm
Yeah,
sure that
Carlos
he'd
is a good
be
guy.
shocked. I don't know how to get mail to Spain though. I'll have to figure that out. So I want to leave everyone also with this thought from Karen Miller. Karen Miller is a Zen Buddhist, and I saw this quote, and I was like, yes, so true. It is very simple. Freedom is instantaneous the moment we accept things as they are. Freedom is instantaneous the moment we accept things as they are. It ties back to what I was saying from Mr. Buckley. Some things in life are not good or bad, they're just real. So sometimes when you accept them just the way they are, all of a sudden, you become free.
You got it. That's it. That's so true. Um, I love that because, if you think about things, if you imagine this large body of water, and it's flowing, it is flowing. The flow of that water is the way things are. And when you try to divert the flow of that water, it takes a great deal of force and effort. And that in turn creates a great deal of stress. And, this is my analogy for why when you just go, okay, this is how the water's flowing. Well, we're gonna, or this is how the wind's blowing. I'm gonna adjust my sails and off we go.
Mhm.
That's
Go with the flow. That's why they say it, right?
yeah,
Go with the flow.
yeah. When the wind changes direction, I shall sail accordingly.
There you go. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been the Modern Enlightenment. Feel free to send us correspondence via Gmail at themodernenlightenment@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, all the fun things. And we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. If you have any ideas, questions, thoughts, or concerns that you'd like to share with us, shoot them our way. We'll be sure to give you a shout out. And we look forward to spending some time with you next time. I'm Tom.
And I'm Will.
Y'all have a great evening and goodbye.
We'll catch you on the flip side.